Hello there. My name is Bill Scherpenberg, and I'm going to be your instructor for this portion of your course on how to use the email program. And the first step-off point in any program is to define what it is exactly that you want to do. By defining what you want it to do is going to define how you're going to create your contact list. But more importantly to this lesson, there are the mechanics of creating the contact list regardless of what your point of view is. What we recommend to do before you start is to graft your process. In other words, sit down and draw boxes connected by sticks that show kind of the flow of what you're expecting your email program to do for you. It is important that you understand that for an email program to be successful, you need to be able to target the audience which you're sending your emails to. Keep in mind that the Spam Act of 2003 requires that when you send an email to someone, that more than less they're kind of expecting it. And so to be consistent with that act, what we're asking you to do is to kind of look at your audience and say, okay, fine, what do I want to do with that audience? Now, the first thing we recommend again is to draw the graph of what you plan your contact list should look like. Think this process through completely. In other words, take some time with it. Don't rush into it. That's not to say that you can't start creating things, but keep in mind that when you create things and you hit the delete button, you've spent a lot of time that you need not have spent if you determine what parts of the graph are important to you and how you're going to use it. Now, once you do that, you're going to have boxes connected by sticks, and these boxes connected by sticks are contact lists. And now we've got to look inside the contact list, and we've got to determine inside that list what elements of information or fields do we want to have. All contact lists don't necessarily have to contain all the same fields as other contact lists, so it's important that you think through each contact list separate from one another, but better how they integrate into the whole system. Name informations to include names of information in the fields. We're naming the fields. Should include first name, last name, middle name, prefix, and suffix. The prefix being Mr., Mrs., Ms., suffix being junior, senior, first, second, third, fourth. Also to include the address with the street number, the name of the street, the city, the street number and name should be one field, with the city, state, and zip code being separate fields so that you can sort that information later on. Phone numbers should include a home phone number, a work phone number, a cell phone, and albeit faxes are going away, a fax number if they have one. The email address is premier. You have to have it. Without an email address, you cannot even upload information into this program because that's the only function that this program works off of. We want to make sure that the email address is grammatically correct based on what email processes are out there. So you're going to have a block of information with the sign in the middle of it, and then another block of information designating where the email is to go to. Now, there are two types of fields you can have. For this discussion, we are going to touch on the custom field, but we're going to have a lesson on how to create a custom field all by itself. So don't get lost in the idea of standard versus custom, other than to the extent that you should understand that one versus the other does exist. Now, the email program by default has what we're going to name as standard fields. They're contact elements such as first name, last name. They may not include a middle name. As a matter of fact, I think it doesn't. I think it does involve suffix, but it doesn't involve prefix. I'm not the person that set it up. I'm not the person that made that, so I can't understand the thinking. The only thing that I'm saying is that if you want these elements of information in your fields, you can create a field to contain that element of information. We'll show you how a little bit later. Also, the next line down in the construction of your database or contact lists are going to be what fields are visible. Now, when you look at your contact list, to the very right of it has some selections such as view, edit, delete. The view situation is going to allow you to view the contents of your contact list, one contact at a time. what is in the viewable field is what elements are going to be in that view screen when you look at it. Now here's where we're going to start out. We're going to create a contact list here from the very basic standpoint. And the first thing we're going to do is, of course, we assume that you know how to log in. We assume that you're going to come to the home page, and this is the home page, and we're going to go to create a contact list. Okay, but we're going to start by going to the contact list. You see the arrow there. And then we're going to, when the drop-down box comes, we're going to go to create a contact list. Once we click that, we're going to come to this screen, and the first thing we're going to be presented with is we have to name the field, or we have to name the contact list. Use as many words as necessary, but certainly you don't want to write a paragraph to define this contact list. Make sure that it is as informative as it can be, because you may not work with this contact list for a while. It is important that you get a name, or give this contact list a name that's going to be useful to you later on. The next thing is, who is the owner of the list? And in this case, by default, because this is my program, so to speak, or this is my portion, just as you are the user, I have an autofill situation, as you do, that will automatically fill my name in that list. Now, can I change that? Yes, I can. I can just simply back that out by putting the cursor there and hitting the backspace, and it will come out. But notice at the very point of the arrow, there is a little blue circle with a question mark in it. If you hover your mouse pointer over that, it's going to give you the instructions on what information you need in that field and how to fill that field in. And subsequently, you'll see that little blue thing just about every place throughout the program. Those are helpful hints that how you can do something. We move on down. The next element of information that we want to look at is whose contact list, which is you. What is your email address? You have to have this email address in there because of the fact that someone who looks at this email is either complimented by it or offended by it needs to have some method of contacting you. And this is where that is. And the bottom is that this is a reply email possibility. In other words, if somebody has a question about it, needs to contact you, this is the email. These two email addresses do not have to be the same. They can be two entirely different emails. But I do want you to take note of the fact that you have to have an email address in there, and they have to be consistent with who you are. Now, moving by the thing in between there, which is whether or not you want to be notified as the owner of the list when there's activity in the list, you can either check mark that or not check mark it. But again, moving forward to the custom fields, they call all fields custom fields, including the ones that have been in here. This list is fairly extensive, so I've only hovered on the very first one in the list, because I've added a lot of custom fields, some of which I've made global for your use, some of them I have not. One option you have, and we'll get there when you'll understand more about this, whenever you see the word global, global indicates that anybody that is on this service can see what you've created. If you don't want that to happen, you simply leave the check mark red instead of green when it says global, and then it'll pertain only to you. But anyway, any element that you want in your database, for a particular contact list, you must have a check mark here for that particular field. So if you do not check mark this field, it's not going to be in your contact list, albeit you may have the information there. So what I'm telling you is any element of information called a field that you want to have inside your database or contact list, you need to put a check mark here. Go down. If they're already check marked and it is something you do not want, uncheck mark it. Moving down to the next is those things that you're going to see visible when you go to the view button. We talked about this a little bit earlier, and I'll show you when we get to contact list and start working with the contact list itself, how you can view the contact list and the elements of information that you want to be able to view will be there. And if you want to change them, you'll be able to come back later on and change it. Now, anything that has to do with the contact list can be changed at some later time. But I want you to understand, when you go to the previous list where we were, and that list is modified, if you didn't have the information uploaded at the time that you put your information in that contact list, that column will be blank for all people other than those that you either go back and manually modify, or only the ones that from the time that you included that element of information forward is either uploaded or entered into that particular contact list. Now we move down below all of that and we get to the company in details. When we put in here company, there's one thing that you need to know. There is a way to call this information into an email template by just putting %, company name, %. Whenever that appears in an email, whatever you have in this box will appear just that way. The same way with all the elements of information that are in this entire list. It's something you just might want to put back in the back of your mind. Also, too, these are absolute elements of information that you must fill out. If you neglect to put that element of information in here, the program will not allow you to save your list. So as you go down through each of these elements of information and fill them out, you must fill them all out. Now, you get down here to company cell phone, and maybe you don't want your company, your cell phone, because the company doesn't have a cell phone, but you don't want your cell phone number out there. You still have to have data in that field. So what we recommend to do is just to put 4 £signs in that field. That'll satisfy its need. And the last bit of information is the fax number. Because fax is a dying way of doing business, we did not include this in the must-fill category. And so therefore it does not have a little blue box before it. But just for your information, you do not have to put a fax number in there. As a matter of fact, you can leave that field completely blank. Once you get all this information done, you hit save, and save will create that contact list for you with all the fields or elements of information in it that you have prescribed. So let's go through this as a summary. Name your contact list with a name that you're going to be familiar with down the road. Ensure that all ownership information is correct. Check mark the fields that you want to include in the contact list. Then the second box is check the fields that you'll be wanting to see when you look and view your contact list elements. And then enter the reference information that you define, that defines the list as yours at the very bottom, company name and things of this nature. Any questions that you have beyond this will be something that will have to be taken care of on a one-on-one basis. You can go to the help button in the upper right-hand corner, and it will give you a mechanism by which you can contact us by email, pose the question, and if it's something that can be answered easily, it will be answered. If not, and it requires more than that, you'll be able to establish contact with an advisor who can help you answer your questions either by telephone or by repeated back and forth emails. Look forward to helping you. Make it a great day.